I want to tell you about the night my father introduced me as his disappointment. Not in private, not in a moment of frustration he later regretted, at his retirement party, in front of 112 people, with a microphone in his hand and a room full of colleagues and friends and family who had come to celebrate 30 years of a career my father was proud of, and one daughter he apparently was not. My father's name is Richard Carter. He retired at 62 from a manufacturing company where he had worked his way from the floor to the executive suite over 3 decades. It was a genuine success story, the kind that required sacrifice and discipline and the specific stubbornness of a man who decided what he wanted and did not stop until he had it. I respected that about him. I had always respected that about him. What I had not always been able to reconcile was the version of that same stubbornness that he applied to me. My father had a clear picture of what his daughter should be: a teacher, a nurse, something with a defined role and a clear title and a pension, something he could explain at dinner parties without elaboration. What I was, a digital entrepreneur who had built a content and consulting business over 6 years, was not something he could explain at dinner parties. So he had, for 6 years, explained it poorly, or not at all, or with the specific verbal shorthand of a man who has decided that if he can't understand something, it probably isn't worth understanding. She does something online. Emily works from home. Emily is still figuring things out. The retirement party was at the Riverside Club. Round tables, good food, the kind of event that my mother had organized with the thoroughness she brought to everything. Place cards, a photo slideshow, a speech she had written for my father that he had pretended he hadn't read in advance. I arrived alone. James was traveling. I found my seat, family table, front left, and settled in with the specific composure of a woman who has attended enough of these gatherings to know exactly when the moment she has been preparing for will arrive. Because I had been preparing for 4 months. The envelope in my bag had been prepared for 4 months. My father's speech began at 8. He thanked colleagues, managers, the company. He thanked my mother, warmly, genuinely, with the specific tenderness of a man who does not always show it easily. He thanked my brother Marcus, who had followed him into manufacturing, and whom he described as the son who understood what real work looked like. And then he turned to me, and he said it, and my daughter Emily, who has always been the creative one, the dreamer, the one who does things her own way. He paused, smiled at the room. Some might say the disappointment of the family. Laughter, not cruel laughter, the uncomfortable kind, the kind that happens when a joke lands wrong and the room isn't sure whether to laugh or not. My father moved on immediately, back to his speech, his career, his pride. And I sat at the family table, with my hands folded in my lap and my bag beside my chair, and the envelope inside it, smiling. I want to tell you about the envelope. 4 months earlier, I had received a letter from an investment group that had been watching my content and consulting business for 18 months. They wanted to acquire a minority stake. The offer was specific, documented, the kind of number that arrived with a team of attorneys and a term sheet, and the particular weight of something that had been calculated very carefully by people who understood value. I had spent 2 months negotiating, 1 month finalizing, and the week before my father's retirement party, I had signed the final documents. The deal had closed on a Thursday. The party was on a Saturday. The timing, I had thought when I looked at the calendar, is interesting. I had not planned the envelope as a performance. I want to be clear about that. I had planned it as honesty. My father had spent 6 years not understanding what I did. 6 years of, she works from home and Emily is still figuring things out. And now 112 people, the disappointment of the family. I had the documentation of what I had actually built. I had decided that he should have it, not because I needed his validation,
but because he needed the truth. And the truth was sitting in an envelope in my bag. The speeches ended at 9. Dinner was served. My father made his way around the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, doing the specific social work of a man in his element. He reached the family table last. My mother, Marcus, me. He hugged my mother, clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Then he turned to me. "Emily," he said, "glad you could make it." "Congratulations, Dad. 30 years is remarkable." He nodded. The specific nod of a man who is already preparing to move on. "Dad," I said, "I have something for you." He looked mildly surprised. "A retirement gift," I said. I reached into my bag, took out the envelope, placed it on the table between us. "Open it when you have a moment," I said. "It explains what I actually do." He opened it at the table, right there while I watched. Inside was a 1-page summary, prepared by my attorney, clean and clear, of the investment deal, the valuation it implied, the terms of the acquisition, the specific number that the investment group had paid for their stake. My father read it, twice. The room continued around us, conversations and dessert, and the pleasant noise of a successful celebration. And my father sat at his own retirement party and read what his daughter had built while he was calling her a disappointment. He looked up. "Emily," he said. "Yes," I said. "This is real," I said. "The attorney's contact information is on the second page if you'd like to verify it." My brother Marcus leaned over, read the summary over my father's shoulder, set down his fork. He said quietly, "when did this happen?" "Thursday," I said. "This week Thursday?" "Yes." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "I owe you an apology." "I do," I agreed. "I'm sorry," he said, simply, without elaboration. "I know," I said. My mother had been watching from across the table. She was the only one who had always known, not the specific numbers, but the reality. She had visited my office, had met my team, had listened over many Sunday phone calls to the actual work rather than the performed version my father received. She had never pushed him to listen. That was a choice I had made peace with. She was not his translator. That was his job. She looked at me now with an expression I had seen before. Pride. Not the surprised kind, the accumulated kind. The kind that has been building for 6 years and is simply, finally, being allowed to show. My father found me an hour later, outside on the venue terrace. I had needed air, not from emotion exactly, from the specific energy of a room where something has shifted and everyone around you is recalibrating simultaneously. He came out alone, without his drink, without the performance of the evening, just Richard Carter, 62, 3 decades of genuine achievement, and a daughter he had just discovered he had profoundly misunderstood. "I didn't know," he said. "I know," I said. "I should have asked," he said. "Yes," I said, "you should have." A pause, the specific pause of a man who is choosing his next words very carefully. "The disappointment line," he said. "It was supposed to be a joke." "I know," I said. "It wasn't funny," he said. "No, it wasn't." "I'm sorry," he said. "I know, but I need you to understand something." He waited. "I didn't give you that envelope to prove something to you," I said. "I gave it to you because you have been describing me inaccurately for 6 years, to people I know, to people I don't know, tonight in front of 100 people, and I needed you to have the accurate information." "That's fair," he said. "It is," We stood on that terrace for 40 minutes, the longest uninterrupted conversation my father and I had had in 6 years. He asked questions, real questions, about the business, about how it worked, about the team, about the investment group and what they had seen and why they had valued it the way they had. I answered all of them, not with impatience, not with the compressed frustration of 6 years of being half-explained, with the full answer, the complete version, the one he should have been given years ago if he had ever asked. And I watched something happen that I had not expected, not just understanding, though that was there, interest. My father was genuinely, authentically interested in what I had built. It had taken 6 years and 1 envelope and the word disappointment in front of 100 people, but it was real. At some point, my mother appeared at the terrace door. She looked at my father, then at me, then at the space between us, the specific space of a conversation that needed to happen and was finally happening. She went back inside. Smart woman. My father called me the following Tuesday, not to discuss the business, to apologize again, more specifically this time, not just, "I'm sorry for tonight." "I'm sorry for 6 years," he said. "I made you small because I didn't understand you, and I should have made it my business to understand you. That was my failure, not yours." 3 sentences, from a man who did not apologize easily. "Thank you," I said. "Will you tell me more?" he said. "About the work. I want to understand it properly this time." "Yes," I said. "I will." People ask me if I planned the timing, the investment closing on Thursday, the party on Saturday, the envelope in my bag, and the honest answer is the timing was real. The deal closed when it closed, the party was when it was. But did I know, when I put that envelope in my bag on Saturday morning, that my father was going to say something that would make handing it to him necessary? No. Did I know, somewhere underneath everything, that an evening with Richard Carter at a microphone was unlikely to pass without something that needed responding to? Possibly. My father came to my office 3 weeks later. He had asked if he could. I said yes. He spent 2 hours there, met my team, saw the work, asked more questions than I had ever heard him ask about anything that directly affected him. When he left, he stood at the door for a moment. "Emily," he said. "Yes?" "You built something real," he said. "Yes," I said. "I did." "I should have seen it sooner," he said. "Yes," I said. "You should have." He nodded. "I see it now," he said. And I believed him, not because he had finally looked, but because of how he looked. The way you look at something you understand. The way my grandfather had always looked at me, like I was worth understanding. That was enough. It was more than enough.